Hello everyone, welcome to Insights. My name is Nnamdi Odipo. In a world where the coronavirus pandemic has caused uncertainties in capital markets, manufacturing and the entire business and industrial sectors, these days people are seeking safer options for investment. During the weeks of complete lockdown in parts of the country, the internet and mobile platforms opened a new vista for business and became the most viable and attractive mode of doing business. I guess the question on the minds of most people at the moment would be, what are the available high-yield investment opportunities in Nigeria with the coronavirus still making the round? We will get some answers presently. My colleague Elizabeth Omorui is here with me as usual. Elizabeth, I know for a fact that you have a guest, an expert that you will be speaking to on ICT transformation and its applicability.
Yes, of course. You would agree with me that information communications technology has transformed the way businesses are actually done these days. Now, how are the entrepreneurs and the media taking advantage, leveraging on ICT to boost their businesses? That will be our focus.
Indeed.
On the media area
Let's
segment.
just get started with the main discussion for this episode. In spite of the shutdown and gloomy picture that heralded the coronavirus pandemic in Nigeria, quite surprisingly, some businesses flourished. But more surprising is how much information technology impacted in the emergence of startups, whether in agriculture, real estate, and most definitely in IT reskilling. I had a rather profound conversation with two analysts in separate professional fields, and it gives a sense of the popular saying, when life gives you lemons, make lemonade. Chuma Nagbado is an entrepreneur and co-founder, Umaru Uno, a design hub operating out of Lagos. Chuma joins me via Zoom. And Dr. Joshua Egbagbe is a business venture analyst with buyers in real estate. Gentlemen, welcome to Insight.
Thank you. Thank you, Namdi.
Thank you. I figure I'll begin on a philosophical note coming from what the world is currently facing at the moment and our penchant to think survivor in spite of challenges. I guess, Chuma, you are in a position to speak to these issues squarely, well, because you're currently working with a community of young people across the continent. Lay the groundwork for us in terms of what is most talked about at the moment. I mean, the most talked about issues, what they are when it comes to business startups and enterprises at a time like this. Chuma.
Thanks for that opportunity. So basically, it's all there. It's about survival. Survival is on everybody's lips. Survival as human beings, survival as businesses, survival as enterprises. So it's the time has come for innovation. The time has come for people to think and use what they have to survive, right? Because the world has been shut down. I mean, the interactions have been reduced and all of that. So yes, against this backdrop, it's almost like a reset button for entire humanity. I mean, the climate is getting the better part of it. So, I mean, anytime you have a stop and start, is always an opportunity to start on a better note and a more well-planned, articulated note. So, yes, I would say survival of just about everything.
Dr. Egbagbe, you chuckled while Chuma mentioned the issue of innovation. Why is that so?
Chuma, you are right on spot, right on target. It's a time for disruption. It's a time to go agile, in your processes and in your strategic thinking. So innovation is the name of the game. COVID era is not just like the people think it started and it's going to end. No, we have entered into a new epoch of human existence. It's an existential issue. And so I chuckled because he was right on target. Innovation, innovation, innovation. And you don't innovate without going digital, So it's all a whole a lot of things pass through my mind. Disruption, innovation, pioneering, new concepts, new ideas. It's a new day.
Dr. Gbagbe, I mentioned earlier that you are a business venture analyst with bias in real estate. One would assume that at a time like this, when businesses are struggling to stay afloat, I mean, what's the appeal with investing in the real estate sector, particularly during a time like this?
Right.
Are there even opportunities?
You see, that question is very tempting because you're giving me, how would I put it now, a platform to quickly, in 2-3 minutes or 1 minute, even say that my background is actually medicine. I'm a medical doctor with a postgraduate in public health management, and we did a research on how socio-economic factors influence health. You see, those are the heydays of the 80s, the mid-80s, when the World Health Organization was talking about public, primary health care. And real estate, specifically affordable housing, is so critical to the health of our people. So in this COVID-19 era, you are going to notice that where you have slums, where you have bad housing conditions, you're going to have more of community, spread of coronavirus, and not just coronavirus, other diseases, but we are focusing on COVID-19. So real estate is going to take a leap forward if properly structured. That's why I chuckled when Chuma spoke about innovation. So we will not do real estate like before. No. We're going to change the paradigm. We're going to have to look at how to simplify the processes, how to digitalize the processes, and how to bring automation into play. But most importantly, we need to shift emphasis to what I call consumer, and demand and off-taker affordability issues. We're going to have to put the Nigerian citizen, the Nigerian worker, at the center of our permutations so that we can design real estate solutions that will not only tackle the issue of shelter, but health. Okay? That's what I think is going to happen.
Dr. Gbagbe, we'll come to the issue of solutions when we highlight certain social and economic challenges, and how some of the solutions can address the issues raised. But Chuma, I'll come to you now. The markets are struggling. There is growing youth unemployment. I mean, it's still an issue. But if I do know something about the Nigerian youth, it is the ability to maintain optimism in the face of challenges and building a promising future that thrives in business and industry. How critical is the element of evolving workable ideas, and what are the tools that we probably, or the people might need or are needed in translating ideas into reality in terms of business? Chuma.
Thank you for that. So if I just step back a bit and take from what Doctor has said, we don't just need to develop or build houses for shelter, but houses that are functional, houses that are health conscious. The greatest resource that we have, like you just rightly pointed out, is the youth. It is said that we have between 60-70% of Africans are below 40 years. I find that very scary, and I think it's some landmine that we are yet to tap. So the greatest resource we have is our youth. Now, how do we tap that youth? We need to create the platforms, the channels. We need to create that enabling environment where the human capital, the human intellect can be put to ultimate use. Starting from real estate, to medicine, to fashion, to construction, to biotechnology. It goes all over the place. Look at what we are doing here now. Normally, we would have had to fly down to NTA HQ to have this interview, but we are using technology in this instance to enable this conversation. So a lot of this needs to be happening. We need a whole lot more, but specifically because we have a backlog of youths that have not been properly educated, we need to leapfrog, we need to jumpstart, we need to create a lot more learning platforms, a lot more learning possibilities, so that those that have missed the foundation can catch up. And we need to really look inwards. And when I say look inwards, we need to start looking at our realities. We need to start looking at that which is economically viable. We need to look at that which is technologically feasible, and that which really solves a problem. Because at the end of the day, when you're able to create something that solves a problem, then you would have started on a journey of sustainability. I know we have limited time, so I'll just hold it there so that we can go ahead.
Dr. Gbagbe appears to be agreeing with you a whole lot, Chuma. But Dr. Gbagbe, I will give you an opportunity to quickly react to some of what Chuma just raised before I go ahead to ask you a question. Would you want to take up from there?
Chuma is basically, as a business analyst, I normally start analyzing from the mindset of the individuals. Chuma has a very entrepreneurial mindset, innovative and rather radical if you look at it properly, because he mentioned the 60-70% of our demographics emphasis, leaning towards the youth.
Yes.
And he also talked about bringing them into, he talked about literacy, learning and all of that. And I will just add to what he said, data, intelligent data. You see, my PhD in medicine had to do with social medical factors, like I said already, and we had to look at data, the spread of disease, the endemicity of any particular disease has to be properly evaluated in respect of data. We now use that data to structure health intervention policies. So in the same way, when we look at the youth of today, I would like to propose affordable housing as almost like a silver bullet, because what Chuma just said now, we need to bring the youth on stream. He talked about backlog. I like that word, backlog. Backlog of what? Backlog of satisfying them with housing, backlog of satisfying them with jobs, backlog of removing the youth unemployment, which translates into youth restiveness. So if you look at affordable housing, you can integrate all of these factors. Poverty alleviation.
I'll interrupt you here, Dr. Gbagbe. I'd like to redirect this discourse, this particular point you're making, and because you did earlier on raise the issue of overcoming COVID-19 era challenges, but particularly in the real estate sector. And of course, we know you've talked about, or we've heard you talk about the value chain in real estate. How can we address some of these challenges, leveraging on the expansive value chain within the sector?
Well, value chain is a very interesting concept which is still taking root in developing countries. But in the real sense of the word, value chain is the way to look at life. For me, as a value chain analyst, I normally take my bearing from the off-taker, from the demand, from the person, the consumer, which in this case is the Nigerian citizen.
Yeah.
Nnamdi, I must be very frank with you. We must have to have more responsiveness to the challenges of the man on the street. So when you look at the value chain of housing, affordable housing as a sector, it dovetails and integrates with value chain, other value chains, because you can't build a single house without literally, involving the value chains of other sectors. For example, I built estates. Okay, I discovered that to build one house, you need to have solid minerals involved. You need to have energy, solid minerals, because
I was going to step in there and ask you to create linkages for how opportunities can be created for young persons.
Yes.
And of course, considering our teaming unemployed youth.
So housing is, I consider it a silver bullet. Let me tell you something people forget. The US, Britain and other developed countries actually use construction, housing specifically, to jumpstart economies. After the Second World War, the US had to take a very radical approach to mortgage-backed housing. They were able to house hundreds of thousands of Americans, including, of course, the soldiers, because housing has linkages, like you just pointed out, Nnamdi, with other industries. Solid minerals in Nigeria is neglected. If housing is brought into focus, you're going to have your sharp sand, your granite, your kaolin, your paint industry, your cement is all solid minerals based. Continue, look at power. Your electricity circuits in the house. Everything to do with power. We drag in the power people. Okay, let's look even at the issue of the artisans. Wow. For every house built, you have about 5 to 7 artisans. So the youth are the ones. When I built an estate in Bauchi, I discovered that the site was busy with young people. Bricklayers, okay, that make blocks. People that create the daily paid work even. Even the people that come to cook on site. Okay, then you look at the fact that the people that do the welding, welders,
Okay.
you know, you have the carpenters, wood. It's a complete integrated sector. If Nigerian government would today, if our dear President Muhammadu Buhari would agree that he should put housing at the center of our post-COVID-19 era, it will jumpstart the economy. I have a blueprint, or not me.
Well,
I belong to a group called,
Okay.
called the Housing Development Advocacy Network, HDAN. And we are a lot of experts on that group. We are developing plans, strategies, how to jumpstart Nigeria's economy with affordable housing at the middle. So we need data.
Okay.
Let's pre-qualify. Let's do an affordability analysis, profiling. Now there's digital. So we
Okay.
can do it easily. 1 million Nigerian youth, let's get them into the indexes of affordability. Then we can structure a national plan around that.
Dr.
Almost like
Gbagbe.
a Marshall Plan. In this case, a Joshua Plan. Thank you.
I'd like to move over to Chuma now. Chuma, I know your platform Mbaro gives you an avenue for social interaction. I'm also aware of your new initiative that you've called The Collective. I actually saw it somewhere in the social media. How exactly does The Collective factor in the drive to engage young people in providing solutions to some of the social and economic problems existing in our country, in Nigeria?
So thank you. The Environmental Collective is not just for social interaction, but actually for social development, social innovation. What we are trying to do is to bring a certain type, a certain classification of our youths, the professionals who are doing their own bit in their own right. We want to come together. We want to create these cycles of innovation where we take one issue and then we just brainstorm through it, and then we come up with real tangible solutions that would then become what forms an enterprise that would solve a problem.
Okay.
This is so because we realize that we have a lot of lip service being paid to innovation, and then we just sit down in one round table, we talk, and at the end of the day, one paper is just issued and it dies there. What we want to do with The Collective is to create actual solutions that then becomes enterprises, businesses, that would empower people in carrying out its mandate of solving that problem, right?
How's the response been so far, and what kind of solutions have targeted? Can you, for instance, create a scenario and tell us about how The Collective has helped in providing solutions to a particular or specific challenge?
Okay, so we've gotten well over 50 young professionals have enrolled. We are starting off 1st of July, and we are going to be focusing on health, obviously, because of what is going on. We want to see how we're going to innovate around health in the first innovation cycle, which will last 3 months. And as this is going on, all we do is going to be published, and whatever we create at the end of the day will then form the seeds of what will become startups and in that enterprise ecosystem. Part of the things we've done before, we've innovated alongside lines of language. So we have a platform online that is trying to standardize the pidgin language, because we realize that language is a big problem.
Yeah.
If we can have a language that is ours, that will give us our identity, then we can start to translate text, we can start to translate literature, we can start with all of that education, we can start to learn. It is easier to learn in the language that is your own than the language that is foreign. We have something else that we've done, an initiative that takes basic first aid training. It's called Dr. No Day, basic first aid training to very remote communities. So as the name implies,
We were, if I recall correctly, Chuma, NTA was actually part of, created a platform for Dr. No Day, and we actually helped pushed the idea across the African continent. But I'll cross over now to Dr. Gbagbe, and speaking of creating solutions, Dr. Gbagbe, there have always been issues and challenges associated with real estate development in Nigeria, even before, of course, COVID-19. These issues are now exacerbated by the pandemic. What level of innovations could come on stream, and I know you've mentioned that earlier, to improve issues like the specific issues like mortgage financing and creating access to housing especially based on one's pocket capacity?
Wow. You've answered the question yourself. You talked about data, Nnamdi, you talked about pocket capacity just now. And, value chain project consultants is not really about a person or even a business. For me, maybe because of my scientific background, my research background, I discovered that way back in 2013, 2014, working with the German government agency GIZ, we were able to do a research. It's actually a document, a research document. You know, I think someday I will look at how to go do a proper degree on that. But the document showed that we actually